Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Space Warfighter Talks. I'm your host, Phil Wolf, the president and founder of the Space Force Association. I recently had an opportunity to catch up with Captain Graff of the 13th Air Support Operations Squadron and Major Leek Harris of Space Delta III to talk about how space is critical to the Joint Terminal Attack Controller mission by providing OPIR, position navigation and timing, and critical satellite communication support. The 13th ASOS, in coordination with the 93rd AGAL, put together a quick video to introduce the Tactical Air Control Party Command and Control construct. Listen in as we discuss innovations necessary to facilitate continued joint all-domain command and control operations.
The Tactical Air Control Party is advancing TACP C2 to meet the needs of the National Defense Strategy and TACP C2 concept of employment. The CONOP states our elements will be modular, scalable, and agile, capable of integrating U.S. Air Force capabilities into the ground force maneuver plan and performing a full range of air-to-ground C2 operations from hardened fixed site locations or on the move, maintaining situational awareness and sustaining operational effectiveness against a sophisticated enemy. Critical to that success is gaining a joint all-domain command and control capability at all levels of war. TACP C2 is building a network of innovators stateside and abroad. In Air Combat Command, the 14th ASOS, 818th OSS, and 93rd AGAL units at Fort Bragg have partnered with Air Force Research Laboratory and the Special Warfare SPO to establish an innovative user engagement site focused on maneuver and airborne operations. Fort Carson's 13th ASOS has established a TACP space integration course and partnered with ABMS architects and industry to conduct experiments on future C2 concepts, providing tactical level refinement. INDOPACOM's 25th ASOS has developed all-domain control teams for agile combat employment. UCON's 2nd ASOS and 4th EASOS are working toward enabling an expanded Link 16 C2 architecture and working through layered ISR capabilities that incorporates connectivity with NATO partners. Together, we are breaking down silos and flattening our innovative network across the TACP weapon system to integrate TACP C2's role in JADC2.
Ghost 1-1 in heading 220.
Ghost 1-1, cleared hot.
I am honored to be here at an undisclosed location at the 13th ASOS, talking to Captain Graff and Major Harris. Thanks so much for being here today.
Hey, thanks. Captain Todd Graff. I'm here at the 13th ASOS. Originally was at the 25th ASOS, and I apologize to Icebreaker. I'm going to say a lot of acronyms, so I'm going to try my best to not do that. ASOS is an Air Support Operations Squadron, and so I've been here for about 3 months and getting plugged in.
Perfect, thank you. And Major Harris?
Yeah, so I'm Major David Harris. I'm the weapons officer for Delta III, which is the Delta that focuses on space electronic warfare. Previous to that, I was at weapons school, 19 Bravo graduate. Have time in the 4th Space Control Squadron, 3 SOPs, 4 SOPs, and ICBMs.
Okay, perfect. Thanks again, folks, for being here. I really do appreciate it. For folks who don't know, explain the organizational construct of the 13th ASOS.
So for at the 13th, we support 3 brigades, infantry, strikers, and armor. And so the ASOS is kind of designed to augment each brigade in their mission set. And then above that, we have division and TACP C2 that is advisors and liaisons to the army.
And as far as the entire organization, how does that fit into the Air Force?
So the organization, we're broken up into squadrons. So we have got squadrons all across the country. At the squadrons, we report to groups and to the 93rd AGAL. What's kind of unique about TACP is we focus on 3 primary mission sets. It's going to be precision strike, liaison, and C2. How we break that up is within an ASOS, you kind of have 2 primary functions. So you have the TACP, and to break down TACP, it's a little bit kind of funny because TACP can be a person, TACP can be the weapon system itself, or TACP can be a capability that is going to augment a mission. So within an ASOS, we have the TACP that support the brigade flights, and then you also have the Air Support Operations Squadron, which is going to be your control agency for a division's airspace.
Understand, thank you. And for the audience, just so they know, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you end up here?
So joined in 2016 and start within a year. It's fast. Went to TACP Schoolhouse for about 4 months. Went to Nellis to go get smart. Went to ALO QC, which is our Air Liaison Qualification course, Joint Fires course, and then out the door to SEER in Washington. So get some combat survival skills in there too. Within a year, I put on JTAC. Currently a JTAC instructor now. And then for the Air Support Operations Center side of the house, qualified as a senior air director. So a lot of liaison with the Army to provide and facilitate the ATO, providing close air support.
Understand, thank you. And Major Harris, how did you end up here?
So I initially commissioned at ROTC, went into ICBMs where I spent 4 years at Malmstrom Air Force Base. I got the opportunity to cross-flow over into space, so I took that opportunity. Showed up at 3 SOPs. 3 SOPs led to 4 SOPs as they merged together. From there, Force Space Control, Weapons School, and then eventually arriving at the 721st OSS, which is where I'm now supporting Delta 3.
Understand. Now, Delta 3, for the folks who don't know, space recently reorganized into all of the space deltas. So tell us a little bit about Space Delta 3 if you can.
Yeah, so the Space Force decided to try and capitalize on the Mountain Home experiment that the Air Force did, where they kind of got rid of the group level, created a wing focused solely on operations. And so that's what a Delta is. It's a wing level organization. Where you have less wickets to go through, so you're able to communicate directly with the wing commander equivalent at the squadron to hopefully enable a little bit more rapid communication up the chain and back down. So Delta 3 itself is the Delta that's assigned to focus on space electronic warfare. So we maintain those assets and prepare our guys to go down range to do that mission set.
Understand, thank you so much. I understand 13th ASOS is focused on kind of a bottom-up approach. What does that mean in terms of innovation, and what does that mean to the mission?
So here at the 13th ASOS, we have the TACP C2 Center of Excellence focused on FUOPs. So with that...
And FUOPs?
Future operations.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, continue to do that. I'll probably do that all day. But so here we're really focused at the bottom-up level of innovation. If we wait for the decisions to be made, sometimes we might have already figured it out at the bottom level, and it's kind of on us to advocate to decision makers to say, hey, we've done this in the past, or through experimentation or exercises. We'd like to, draft papers and have conversations that allow us to kind of take the non-traditional approach for what TACP have been doing and start to say, hey, at the bottom level, we're prepared to advocate and advance the career field in the community.
And from a space perspective, what's the importance of having space in support of this organization?
So space is able to support this organization in a few ways, and having an innovation flight is awesome for having a touch point to go to. That'll hopefully outlive personalities as we move on, and organizations can start to mesh together.
And from a threat perspective, because everything's focused on the threat, how critical is space to the operations for the TACPs?
So space is pretty critical to the operations for the TACPs in terms of battle space awareness, understanding what's going on out there, tracking the enemy movements, but also reaching out and being able to affect the adversary is something that we'd like to get into too. But
like I say, TACP are definitely relying on space-based assets to provide us everything from position, navigation, timing. It's important to know where we are on the battlefield as well as which direction we're facing. So as well as the weapons that we're employing, a lot of them use GPS coordinates and things like that without having a protected environment, or at least being aware of what type of threats are out there, will help us deploy different tactics, techniques, and procedures to be able to make sure we meet the right effect.
Okay. Can you describe the role of the TACP in the Air Force, training qualifications, deployments, partners, conventional and unconventional?
Yeah, so to break that down into training, briefly spoke about some of my training. There's not a lot of space in it. So we get spun up on how to be a good TACP, how to integrate with the Army, how to be a JTAC, and then now it's kind of upon us to help create, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but the Special Warfare Integration Space Course, SWISIC. So some of the training is going to rely on us to continue. We're on our third iteration of it, to continue that type of relationship building, awareness. What's kind of funny is we were talking earlier, and space doesn't really know what TACP is or does. And then on the opposite end, TACP are like, why does space matter to me? So all these things that we tackle in this course, and then moving on to the future of training, we've actually got a few events set up where we're going to have space coordinate with TACP. TACP are going to coordinate with aircraft, and we're going to blow something up. So just doing the bottom-up refinement of, hey, space and TACP, have we ever done an exercise together where only our DLOs were on the table and DLOs desired learning objectives? So I think just our proximity, being this close to space country and to Major Harris and his crew, that we're able to, one, make a course, make it apply to those that need and can use this information. And then on the other end is get out of the classroom, go out, use tactical radios, tactical equipment, and make effects happen.
Can we talk about that course a little bit, Major Harris? Would you be able to explain some of the objectives of that course and what you expect students to get out of that course?
Yeah, so the course, as Captain Graff said, this is the third iteration of it. So what it kind of flowed out of is there's a TACP who was deployed and learned a little bit about space capabilities on his way home. And he had the statement that we all hate to hear of, man, if I knew this at the beginning of my deployment, it would have been so much more helpful through it. So the whole course is designed around trying to get after that issue for TACPs, to educate them on space effects, what we're able to provide, when we're able to provide it, how they request that, those different processes. So what we want to expose them to is kind of the menu of things that space can get into the fight with, and allow them to know that before they go out. So that's kind of the main thrust of the course and why we're trying to fix that.
And can you talk to any of these specific objectives in terms of SATCOM, GPS, maybe other space objectives in support of TACPs?
Yes, so a key one is OPIR, right? So as we have overhead persistent infrared, that can provide be it either missile warning or battle space awareness to guys on the ground in a relatively expeditious timeline. The question is, do they know what to request and when, so that we have the right thing in the right place? And then on the GPS side of the house, teaching them tactics on how to deal with if an adversary is trying to remove that capability from them. What can they do? What does that information tell them? How do they respond in that environment? Or in some situations, letting them know, quit going down this rabbit hole and find a different solution to stop wasting time. And then, from the electronic warfare side of the house, we're trying to expose them to some of our specific capabilities of ways we can get after the adversary, and then teaching them, specifically how to fill out things like non-kinetic effects request forms, which a lot of TACPs haven't dealt with unless they've been in very specific situations. So how do they request our effects? What timelines? And then another big thing that we try and teach them is some of the limitations. Because sometimes when you don't understand the ins and outs of an effect, you might know capability, but you don't know the limitation of it can only do this, or it can do this for you on this timeline. So trying to educate our TACPs on those types of issues. For us also, it provides a great opportunity for young space operators to get outside of our career field. So what we try to do is have a little bit younger briefers with an older mentor who comes in and can kind of provide some of the color commentary a little bit on the capabilities that we're talking about. It allows us to hone a little bit in too, as we get to hear the questions that they ask. We get to hear what's important to them, so that we're able to provide them relevant information when we need to. And
you said how many times has the course been executed?
So we've executed about 3 times now.
Okay.
So we're looking to do a spring and fall iteration, and then also, as we develop the course, provide some type of field work that will follow the course as well. So as we go out and experiment, whether it's working with 5th gen aircraft in Utah or down in Pelias, looking at how the EMS spectrum affects us, Then taking those lessons learned, applying to the class, giving them a tangible con-op that we've gone out and executed. So that way, a lot of those questions that they would ask, maybe that can help foster some of the experimentation or exercises that we just hadn't thought of.
Thank you. Talking a little bit about Agile Combat Employment, or ACE, can you talk a little bit about how this organization is helping to facilitate the ACE model?
Absolutely. So coming from PACAF, we have the...
And PACAF is?
Pacific Air Forces.
Yep, got it.
So we've got one of the largest AORs to cover, and most of it is water. So we have specific requirements that we have to be able to provide for the Air Force, as far as what if there's known comm blackout spots? What if, how do we island hop? So we actually, it's conceptual, but we've created what's called the Ultimate Control Team, kind of revamping how we TACP C2 into a package that's almost plug and play. So specifically designed to meet that ACE mission set for Agile Combat Employment. But what's really unique about the ASOS is it has a lot of organic capabilities. Everything from TACP, Joint Tech, terminal controllers, to RF troops, to cyber troops, intel troops. So we have all that in-house. So we were able to not recreate a wheel, but just re-vector that and create a team, and we've been able to participate in some pretty cool things, integrated with the NRO to be able to do some digital things, and hey, do you see this? Yes, we see that. So just really kind of going outside of our typical wheelhouse of facilitating the ATO for the Army, and to more so, how do we provide assets and capabilities to the joint force? So what we're doing here is specifically in ACC, we face a concept of a TAC and a TOC. So you have your Tactical Operations Center, and then you have your Tactical Operations Center. So how do we facilitate that LEAP operation in an Agile Combat Employment fashion? So taking some of the same equipment, the same people, maybe different vehicles that are lighter, faster, more maneuverable to the con-op that we're executing, and now taking some of the lessons learned that we were able to implement in PACAF and bring them here. That's kind of one of our next steps, is to really revamp and rebuild how we LEAP operate.
And you talked about force packaging. I think that's a really important concept. Major Harris, could you tell us a little bit about force packaging and how space fits into the TACP force package?
Yes, so we're working on developing this out right now, but traditionally our assets are pretty SA limited on the battle space. As we're kind of only know what's going on through chat or things like that, or things that are told to us. I can't look outside of my cockpit and see what's going on. So we're always looking for plugins of where we can get information from on what's happening in the battle space. And then we want to be able to respond in an operationally relevant timeline. Typically, our assets are held at a much higher level for execution, but if we can kind of clear some roadblocks ahead of time, we can get down to tactically relevant timelines where we're getting information directly from the TACP C2 team, and then we're able to make decisions in the moment based off of that, reducing our timelines down quite a bit. So as we look to integrate in with what they're doing, I think that's one of the great things that comes out of this relationship, is being able to inform our assets of what's going on, to be able to work a little bit faster and provide effects to the warfighter a little bit faster. And
to piggyback off that, as space is building out what is Agile to them, and we're building out what is Agile to us, specifically in PACAF or USAFE, we look at command relationships. How do we, at the bottom level, integrate them? How do we talk? What type of command relationships do we have, whether it's condition-based authorities or executing off of a 5-day ATO because comms went black? So what we have to do is be able to know what space can truly do as far as capability-wise, what their communication suites look like, and without having a course or integrating, we're kind of left in the dark, because again, TACP C2 integrating with space is still, it's not new downrange, but as far as training, exercising, and building these relationships is relatively new.
And I tell you, there's no better place to do that except in the classroom. And so it's phenomenal that you're working towards ensuring that folks can have collaborative discussions in the classroom now, learn about it, and then implement those best practices in the field. Today, if you wanted to get space support, what would be that process?
So, as a TACP, from at least a division level or above, I would go ahead and contact the Air Operations Center, Space L&O, and be able to submit a space support request form or electronic, we call it an ERF, but the non-kinetic electronic attack form, and send it up that route. So one of the things that we are trying to highlight is maybe that process is slow. Maybe there's ways we could do things faster. So we're trying to innovate from the bottom up here on how do I communicate with space, whether they have a forward team and we have these type of authorities to execute effects, or how do we just create the awareness within the TACP community is, hey, this is a space support request form. This is how you fill it out. This is where it goes in the channels, and then this is the type of timeline that you can expect for effects.
Have you seen or been the recipient of a space support request?
I have. So my deployment to COD Space, that's where we handle a lot of those. Typically, they're coming down from combat plans, though, and they're like almost exclusively supporting the ATO. So a lot of times it doesn't flow back out to the field, and of course, the space support request only goes back to those that submitted it. We don't, we're not just emailing the entire DoD with a response to it. So educating these guys on this process that they can feed into is important, so that they can get the correct products back to them. But yeah, so that's been my experience with them. Normally, too, knowing what you can ask for is pretty huge on that. If you don't know it's out there, you can't ask for it. And so that's been another huge win for this course.
Really appreciate it. Last question. How does this all fit into Joint All-Domain Command and Control? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Joint All-Domain Command and Control, JAD C2. TACP C2 is, in my opinion, a 51% solution to being an edge command and control element to JAD C2. Day to day, we integrate with the Army, we integrate with the Joint Force across the world. So for us, one of the big things is how do we get systems to talk to each other? Are the right zeros and ones being sent? So I think JAD C2 for us is being able to take not just the air domain, but space, cyber, land, air, sea, put it all together as a edge C2 user. So within a lot of JAD C2 events like ABMS, Advanced Battle Management System, we've had the concept of the all-domain control teams come out and support those being edge C2 users. So JAD C2 is going to be a lot of networking, and so it's equally important for us to not just be able to perform the job, but make sure our systems talk to one another. And then on the other end, implement JAD C2 lessons learned into the SWISIC space course is going to be a highlight and a win for one, the course, and two, the communities.
And from your perspective, Major Harris?
Yeah, from our perspective, it's massive. So as we work on standing up a new warfighting domain of space, sometimes you'll hear people say things like, our next wars will be fought in space. And that's not wrong, but it's not the full picture. It's always going to be joint all-domain. It won't be fought exclusively space. It will inherently be fought in all the other domains as well. So making sure we're plugged into that, and that we continue to maintain the integration that we've worked so hard over for decades now as space has grown up, isn't lost in this, and that it's incredibly important to protect and defend space, and we need to focus on that, but we need to not forget that all the other domains play an inherent role in space operations as well, and having those conversations back and forth is massively important to us, and actually getting after affecting the adversary.
Thank you both so much for your time. The key is, I think, continued collaboration between the communities is going to be critical to continue to facilitate JAD C2 operations. The concept about developing from the ground up and innovating from the ground up is extremely important. Hopefully we can get a tour of the facility and see what's going on around this location. Thank you both so much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Wolf, for having us.
Thank you.
Members of the 13th ASOS then provided a brief overview of the capabilities enabled by the space domain.
So for this is how we can implement using our battle tracking whenever we go into our reconnaissance style mission set. There's many different various ways we can do this. This is just one example using a server, a server that we set up to where we can just run it off of this and then run it here to where we can battle track our teammates that are out doing our training. We have another method of ANW2 as well, which does a similar concept, just a different style of waveforms when it comes to this. So pretty much what we set up, there are different methods of communication that we exercise through a PACE plan on how we can still maintain situational awareness through our friendly forces. And then with this, we're starting to train this and implement this out and pass this knowledge to the Army to try and convince them to start updating their systems and doing this very, very effective way. All these targets here, these are from the TACP teams, and they just populate the targets and they can broadcast it to a headquarters element, and we can see these. And then this is also where they can attach pictures when we're doing the deep strike mission set or collecting intelligence. They can take pictures of the targets they're seeing and attach them to the targets they drop there, and we can open that up and see what they're actually looking at.
Thank you for watching this episode of a 3-part series as Captain Graff from the 13th ASOS and Major Leak Harris of Space Delta III describe how the Air Force and Space Force are developing innovative ways to ensure education and training of critical space capabilities are conducted in support of the JTAC mission.